Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of RDS Accounting and Bookkeeping, I'm delighted to welcome you to this insightful session today. At RDS, we specialize in accounting, bookkeeping, tax advisory, and compliance services, supporting SMEs across the UAE to confidently navigate their financials and regulatory responsibilities. Our mission is to empower business owners with the knowledge and tools they need to stay compliant and make informed decisions. So today's topic is small business relief under corporate tax. Is especially relevant to entrepreneurs, freelancers, and small business owners. As corporate tax become a reality in the UAE, many have questions about eligibility, filing obligations, and compliance risks. So, this session is designed to cut through the confusions and provide clear, actionable insights to help you avoid penalties and remain compliant. So, in today's session, we will be covering who qualifies for small business relief, revenues, thresholds, and filing requirements, common misconceptions, and key compliance tips. Now, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Ms. Dhanya Rejish. Ms. Dhanya Rejish is a Federal Tax Authority approved tax agent and the Managing Director of RDS Accounting and Bookkeeping. With over 15 years of experience in tax, accounting, and financial advisory, she has earned a solid reputation across the UAE as a trusted advisor to SMEs, corporations, and entrepreneurs. She is recognized expert in the UAE corporate tax, VAT, and compliance, and has played a vital role in helping small business and startups to navigate evolving tax regulations and optimize their tax structures. Most recently, she was honored with the Best in Tax Consultancy Excellence Award 2025 by the Gulf News and Being She at the prestigious Museum of Dubai. It's our pleasure to have her here with us today to simplify the complexity around small business relief under the UAE corporate tax. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ms. Dhanya Rejish. Over to you, Ms. Dhanya.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Nida, and thank you all for joining today's webinar on small business relief. And I'm really glad to have you all here. So as Nida mentioned, this session is all about helping the small businesses, startups, freelancers understand what relief options are available under the corporate tax laws. So we will be covering what is small business relief, the objectives of small business relief, the eligibility criteria, and how to elect for it. What is the impact on electing for the small business relief and how to elect for it? The accounting standards to use when you choose the small business relief and the tax compliance requirements. And we will keep the session simple and practical. I will also be answering your questions at the end. So feel free to drop them in the chat as we go. So let's get started. As you know, the UAE introduced its corporate tax law in October 2022, and it under the Federal Tax Law number 47 of 2022, and which applies to the tax period starting from June 1st of 2023. So one key support introduced under this law is the small business relief, which is a special benefit designed to ease the burden for small business owners or startups, especially during their growth stage. So any eligible taxable person, so it can be a natural person or a juridical person with a revenue of 3 million or less than 3 million in a relevant tax period. Here the point to note is the relevant tax period and all previous tax periods that end on or before 31st December 2026. They can elect to be treated as having no taxable income in that particular period. So that will be 24, 25, and 26. The first 3 years of CT law introduction, this 3 years you will get this benefit to elect for the small business relief. and will not be obliged to calculate any taxable income or file a full tax return. So basically, if a business revenue is less than 3 million, you can opt for the small business relief. And this doesn't mean that you don't have to register for corporate tax or you don't have to file the return. Yes, you will have to file the return, you will have to register. And during the filing process, you will have to elect whether you are eligible to choose for the small business relief or not. So as you see, the corporate tax, the main benefit is to ease the compliance. So it helps the small businesses to ease their compliance and tax burden, and mainly the revenue threshold. So you will have to check the revenue, whether it's less than 3 million or equal to 3 million. Now let's see what are the objectives of small business relief. So main objective is to reduce the compliances. So as I mentioned before, this was introduced only to support the small businesses during the initial growth stage. So by giving this option, it reduces the compliance obligations for the small businesses. The second one is the avoid full tax return. So by electing for the small business relief, you don't have to file the full tax return. Instead, you can file a simplified return. But anyhow, the return filing is mandatory. Even if the revenue is zero, you will have to file a simplified return to the FDA. Exempt from tax. So exempt eligible businesses from paying corporate tax until 2026. So until 2026, if you are going to elect for small business relief, you don't have to pay taxes to the government. However, return filing is mandatory. Then encourage growth. So it encourages small businesses growth during the early years. So they don't have to go behind this, like keep an accountant, full-time accountant only for the corporate tax purposes. Either they can outsource so that the return filing will be done. Now, let's see what are the eligibility criteria. So this small business relief is applicable only to a resident person. So you should note this point. It is available only to a resident person. So this resident person can be a natural person, which means an individual, or a juridical person, which means a company. So a person or a company registered in UAE or have a physical office or a permanent establishment in UAE can opt for this small business relief. This is one of the condition. The second condition is the revenue should be less than 3 million. And this is only applicable for the first 3 years, that is 24, 25, and 26. So if you're filing corporate tax return for the period 2024 from Jan to December, which will be done in this year, 2025, before September 2025, you will have to check whether your revenue is exceeding 3 million or not. If it's not exceeding 3 million, you have an option to elect for the small business relief. Let's see some examples of the residence of juridical person. So before in the previous slide, I mentioned that residency is a category for this electing small business relief. So residence of juridical persons, I will explain this 3 examples. So example number 1, ABC LLC was incorporated in the UAE. So you should know that it's incorporated in the UAE. And ABC LLC is a resident person for corporate tax purpose. So in this case, ABC LLC is a resident person for the corporate tax purpose. The second example is DEF LLC was incorporated in a foreign country, but it is effectively managed and controlled in the UAE. In this case, DEF LLC is a resident person for corporate tax purpose. But in the third example, there is a change, like XYZ LLC was incorporated in a foreign country, but it conducts the business in the UAE without any physical place or fixed place of business in the UAE. In this case, XYZ LLC is not a resident person for corporate tax purpose. So this company cannot opt for a small business relief. Now, how to calculate the revenue for juridical or natural persons? So for juridical persons, all income, like all global income, either within UAE or something which they generate from outside the UAE, is taken for the calculations when they check the threshold of 3 million. But in case of natural persons, they need to include only the foreign income related to their UAE business activities. If not, then they don't have to include any foreign income when calculating the revenue for threshold of 3 million. Now let's see who is not eligible. So I before in the previous slides I mentioned what are the eligibility criteria. Now let's see who is not eligible to elect for small business relief. So FTA have clearly mentioned that following few companies or persons cannot elect for small business relief. The first one is the multinational enterprise. So any member of a MNE cannot go for an election for small business relief. Then qualifying free zone persons. Free zone persons can choose to elect for small business relief, but if they are opting for a qualifying free zone person, they cannot elect for small business relief because they already benefit from 0% tax on qualifying income. So they will not get two relief together. Either they should go for the qualifying free zone person relief or they can opt for the small business relief. Then the third one is artificially split businesses. So businesses, they generally split the one person itself start different companies in order to split the income so that they can keep it under 3 million. This artificial splitting is also not eligible to elect for small business relief. Then the P, permanent establishments of non-resident person. So non-resident companies with a permanent establishment can qualify for small business relief only if they are from a country that has a DTA, double tax agreement, with the UAE that includes a non-discrimination clause. And also they should meet all other conditions for electing the small business relief. Now let's see one example where it says eligibility for company based in free zone. So in my previous slide, I mentioned that a free zone company cannot choose both together. Either it has to go for a qualifying free zone or it can choose a small business relief. So here the example says ABC Tech visits CEO. It's based in Dubai free zone. The total revenue generates in 2024 or in a year, it's 2.5 million. Out of this 2.5 million, qualifying income is 2.4 and non-qualifying income is 100,000 from mainland. Since ABC Tech is a qualifying free zone person, they already enjoy 0% tax on most of their income. So they cannot apply for small business relief. So for qualifying free zone person or a free zone company, if it qualify for qualifying free zone person, then it's better to opt for the qualifying free zone person category instead of going for a small business relief. Now let's see how small business relief works. So first of all, there will be no taxable income. So if a company or if a person is going to elect during the tax filing as they are coming under the category of small business relief, they do not have to calculate any taxable income. So if there is no taxable income, then there is no need to calculate the taxes as well. And elect for relief. So they must elect for the relief in the tax return each year. It's not one time. So all these 3 years, 24, 25, and 26, when they do the filing, you will have to elect for the small business relief in order to get this eligibility. What does non-taxable income means under the small business reliefs? So in case of ordinary corporate tax, ordinary like a corporate tax process, or ordinarily when a company calculate the corporate tax, businesses calculate accounting income, then they exclude the exempt income like dividends or profit earned from the other companies. They add back all the non-deductible expenses. And if there are any reliefs like group transfers or qualifying business relief, or it can be business structuring relief, there are other relief which is applicable apart from small business relief. So in normal cases, a company have to calculate the taxable income after adjusting all this exempt income, non-deductible expenses. And the result is a taxable income, which will be taxed at 9%. But if you are going to opt for a small business relief, then the benefit is no need to calculate the taxable income at all, because there is no tax for small companies or persons electing for small business relief. So no taxable income, no need to adjust any income or expenses, no corporate tax payment required, and file a simplified return. Please note this point, the filing is mandatory. Only thing is it will be a simplified return, but filing is mandatory. Then reduce compliance burden. So no need to keep a transfer pricing documents. Then exempt from other calculations which are mentioned in the corporate tax law. So if you opt for small business relief, you will get all these benefits. Now let's see, we have already seen the benefits of choosing the small business relief. Now let's see what are the impact of electing for the small business relief. So mainly on the tax losses. So if you are going to choose for the elect for the small business relief, let's say in 2024, and you had a loss in 2024, this loss cannot be carried forward to 2025. So basically it means if 2025, if you have a profit, and if you want to knock off the losses of the previous year against this profit of 2025, this will not be allowed because you opted for a small business relief in 2024. So no use of tax losses during the relief period. If a resident person elects for SBR, they cannot accrue new tax losses. So this loss cannot be carried forward to the next years or the coming subsequent years. Utilize existing tax losses, transfer of tax losses to group members. Either they cannot transfer their losses to their group members. So these restrictions apply only during the tax period in which the relief is elected. Let's say in 2024, if you are not electing for the small business relief and you had a loss, then it can be carried forward to 2025. So treatment, let's see what is the treatment of previously accumulated losses. As I mentioned, unutilized tax losses from the previous periods can be still carry forward. So that means in 2025, you had a profit. In 2026 also you have a profit. Sorry, 2025 you have a loss. 2026 you had a profit. So you elected in 2024 SBR, but in 2025 you didn't elect for the SBR. So loss of 2025 can be carried forward to 2026, but 2024 it cannot be utilized. So can be used in future tax periods. The persons do not elect the small business relief and other carry forward conditions are met. So those who don't elect for the small business relief, they have an option to carry forward losses. If they elect for it, there is no option to carry forward losses. So this is a disadvantage of electing for small business relief. Now the next impact is on the general interest reduction rule. So if you, let's say if you have a loan taken from the bank or any other related parties, like this interest on the loan can be deducted up to, there is a cap for this deduction, but this interest deduction is not available if you are going to opt for a small business relief. So no interest deduction during the relief period. If small business relief is elected, the net expenditure, interest expenditure cannot be accrued, used or carry forward. Even you cannot carry forward and use to the next year. So the general interest reduction limitation rule does not apply to companies who who elect for small business relief. And interest deductions are completely disallowed for that period. Treatment of the previously carry forward interest. So if you have any interest from the previous years, that can be carried forward to the subsequent years, but you cannot utilize in the period in which you are going to elect for the small business relief. So if small business relief is not elected, then interest reduction is possible. Even the interest which is not utilized can be carried forward to the next year. So this is one of the impact of choosing a small business relief, that you won't be eligible to deduct the interest on loan. Now let's see how to elect for the small business relief. So first of all, you should get registered for the corporate tax. As you all know that after taking the license in UAE, within 3 months, you're supposed to get registered for the corporate tax. If not, there will be a penalty of 10,000 AED. And now FTA have declared a waiver for these penalties. So if you haven't registered for the corporate tax, please do the registration. And in order to get the waiver of 10,000 dirhams, you should file your corporate tax before 31st of July. Usually, the FTA is giving a 9 months from the end of the financial year. So let's say your financial year is Jan to December 2024. Then you will get a 9 months from December 2024, which is September 2025. But in case of a waiver, like if you have a penalty, then let's file it before July 31st. If you are doing this filing before July 31st, FTA will automatically waive your fine. So you don't have to apply for the waiver. It is automatic. Once you file the return, the penalty will be waived and will be reversed in your portal automatically. So first of all, you should register for corporate tax, then elect in the tax return. So indicate the election for small business relief within the tax return. So this election is only possible during the filing process. So make sure that you file the return and you elect on the same return itself. In the form, there is an option to elect for it along with the other reliefs like group structuring relief or business restructuring relief. Along with the other relief, there is an option for small business relief as well. So you will have to choose that I am going to elect for this small business relief. So immediately what happens is the other forms which is there in the corporate tax return will automatically be like disabled, and you will only have to file a simplified return. So basically you will be giving your basic data of the company, like company address, company trade license number. There will be an option to check all the details and confirm it, then go for the simplified return. And it must be done for each tax period separately. So it by applying for this relief in 2024 doesn't mean that it will be automatically applied in 2025 and 2026. So each year, if you're eligible and if you want to elect for a small business relief, you will have to choose that option in 2025 and 2026 separately in the return when you file the return. So that means one election is only for 1 year of relief. And relief does not carry forward automatically. It must re-elect every year to continue benefiting. So please keep this in mind. After choosing this option in 2024, it doesn't mean that it will be automatically applied for the subsequent 2 years. And this is only available until 2026. So only 3 years you can choose this option. Let's see one example for electing for small business relief. So Mr. X operates a business in Abu Dhabi. He is a resident person for corporate tax purpose. He started trading on 1st January 2025 and his tax period ends on December 31st. In the most recent tax period ending 31st December 2025, Mr. X derived revenue of 2 million. So his revenue was only 2 million. In this case, Mr. X is eligible to benefit from small business relief because he is satisfying all the eligibility criteria which is mentioned in the law, which is he is a resident natural person with a business or business activity, and he is generating a revenue of 1 million because he is a natural person. For natural persons, as you know, if they generate a revenue of 1 million and above, only they need to go for a registration, or else they don't have to register for corporate tax, or they don't have to pay any taxes as well. But in this case, he is a natural person and he is generating a revenue of 2 million. So he have already crossed that 1 million threshold, but it is less than 3 million. So he can opt for small business relief also. So he is not getting the natural person relief, but he is benefiting from the small business relief. Mr. X has not breached the revenue threshold from previous periods, given that the 2025 tax period is his first year of operation. So in 2020, he started the business only in 2025. So there is no revenue to check whether he is eligible or not in the previous year. So in this case, straight away, he is eligible for small business relief. If he wishes to benefit from small business relief, he must make an election in his return when he filed the return. Now let's see another example. on how to calculate the revenue or how to check the revenues in the previous tax periods. So Miss Y operates a business in Sharjah. She is a resident person for corporate tax purpose. Her tax period ends on December 31st every year. In the most recent tax period ending December 31st, 2026, Miss Y derived a revenue of 1.9 million. In the previous tax periods ending December 2025, she had earned a revenue of 4.3 million. Here in this case, Ms. Y is not eligible to benefit from the small business relief for the tax period 2026 because her revenue has exceeded 3 million in the previous tax period. So if you're filing in 2026, you should check the previous year as well, whether in the previous year you had crossed this 3.3 million threshold. So in her case, she had already exceeded 3 million. She had a revenue of 4.3 in 2025. So in this case, automatically she is not eligible for opting the small business relief in 2026, even though her revenue is less than 3 million in 2026. So let's say in 2024, you had a revenue less than 3 million, but in 2025, you had a revenue more than 3 million. From that year onwards, you will lose this eligibility for small business relief. So if that is the case in 2026 also, you cannot opt for small business relief. So only first year you can opt for small business relief. Now let's see what are the accounting standards to be followed when calculating the revenue if you are opting for small business relief. First of all, let's see what are the accounting standards. So it's a set of rules or principles for reporting your financials. And it impacts how revenue is recognized during a period. And it is governed by the IFRS, which is an International Financial Reporting Standard. Then accounting method for SMEs. So if you are opting for the small business relief, you have an option to choose the cash basis of accounting. So there are two bases of accounting as per the IFRS. The first one is accrual basis and the second one is cash basis. So in accrual basis, you will be recording all the revenues, expenses as and when they accrue. And in cash basis, as you know, you will be recording the expenses and the revenues as and when they incur. So today, if you're paying 100 dirhams for some expenses, today you will record it as a expenses. But in case of accrual accounting, today if you are receiving an invoice for 100 dirhams, but you are not paying it today, you will be paying maybe after 3 months. Still, that expense has to be recorded in the books based on the accrual basis. In case of small business relief, FT have given an option to choose the cash basis of accounting only if your revenue is less than 3 million. And in case like for other companies, they can apply for the cash basis, but FTA can say that no, you will have to follow the accrual basis. So it's up to the FTA to approve it or not. Then what counts as revenue? So when you see the threshold of 3 million, you should also see the sales from other things, like not only the sale of goods or services. It can be a sale of assets or any other business segment. You might be selling your one of your business segments and you are earning some profits from that. So this will also be counted as a revenue when you check this 3 million threshold. So it's not just a trading income. For example, if you're a person who is into trading, and the revenue which you receive from trading plus the revenue if you have received anything from the sale of assets should be taken into account while checking the eligibility for the small business relief. Even the non-cash receipts like barter transactions must be recorded as at market value and taken into the calculation of revenue to see whether you are crossing the threshold of 3 million or not. Now let's see one example. Resident person anticipates exceeding the revenue threshold. ABC LLC is a resident person for corporate tax purpose. ABC LLC has been conducting business for a number of years but has never generated revenue for more than 2 million. ABC LLC elected for small business relief for the tax period ending 31st December 2024. At the beginning of 2025, one of ABC LLC's competitors ceased trading suddenly, and ABC LLC experienced a huge increase in the sale as a result. Now, ABC LLC forecast that for the tax period ending 2025 December, it will have a revenue of more than 5 million. ABC LLC does not need to do anything different immediately. However, if its revenue for December 2025 for the tax period does not exceed 3 million, it will no longer be eligible for, does exceed 3 million, then it will no longer be eligible for small business relief. It will have to calculate and pay corporate tax on its taxable income. So in this regard, ABC LLC will need to consider all the relevant provisions of the corporate tax law, including any relief which might be applicable. Let's see the VAT registered business and the small business relief. So there is confusion regarding the VAT and small business relief. So here I will explain to you the difference. So a small business relief is applicable only for the it's available only under corporate tax law, and it's applicable to the taxable income. So if you are a person who is registered for the VAT, and the revenue calculation should be like in excluding VAT. So VAT collected should not be included in the revenue. VAT is not an income, as you know. We will have to collect it from the customers and pay back to the FTA. So revenue for corporate tax purpose means the net of revenue, a net of VAT, which means the value which you receive from the customers, excluding the VAT portion. That will be the revenue for the corporate tax purpose. So if you are going to calculate the taxable income, exclude the VAT portion from the revenue. No changes to the VAT obligation. So small business relief applies to corporate tax only, and it does not affect the VAT registration or compliance. So if you're opting for small business relief, it doesn't mean that you don't have to get registered for the VAT, or you don't have to file the return quarterly for the VAT. So both are separate. One is for the corporate tax purpose, and the other one it's purely for the VAT. So if you're doing a sales and your turnover exceeds 375,000, mandatorily you should go for the registration. If you're not registered within, if you're not going to register within 30 days of exceeding this 375,000, then there will be a penalty of 10,000 dirhams. And businesses must continue to file the VAT returns and comply with VAT laws, even if they elect for the small business relief or corporate tax. So a lot of the people have this confusion that whether they should still keep filing the VAT return because they are coming, their revenue is less than 3 million. So what they think is they don't have to register for the VAT and they don't have to file the return. So it's absolutely wrong. So you should file the VAT return, and you can opt for the small business relief as well. So both are different. Let's see one example here. So XYZ Trading LLC sells products worth 2.5 million and charges 5% VAT, which is 125,000. Total invoice value is 2.6 million. So here for small business relief, XYZ's revenue is 2.5 million, because we are not taking the VAT into revenue calculation for small business relief. So we are just taking the 2.5 million excluding VAT. Here VAT is not counted in the revenue, and XYZ is still required to file the return and pay VAT to the FTA, even if it qualifies for small business relief. So small business relief reduces the corporate tax burden but does not change the VAT rules or filings. Let's see the compliance obligations, the record keeping requirements, and the administration for small business relief. So the requirements to self-assess and register and make an election. So this, as a company or as an individual, you will have to assess whether you are coming under the small business relief and whether you should register. So for sure, companies who have taken a license in UAE, unless it's a natural person or a sole establishment license, all other licenses, they will have to go for the registration, which is a mandatory registration. And when it comes to the filing, they can see whether they are crossing the revenue of 3 million or not and go for the election. Requirements to file the tax return. Mandatory filing, but simplified one. So as I mentioned, filing is mandatory, by opting small business relief, it doesn't mean that you don't have to file it. You should file, but a simplified one. Then records required to be kept to demonstrate revenues like bank statements, sales invoices, and other records. So if you ask me what documents should I keep to prove this, because FTA can come for a verification anytime, and if they ask to prove whether you are coming under the 3 million or not, you will have to produce your bank statements, the sales invoices which you have generated, the expenses bill, everything you will have to produce to them. Then record keeping is for 7 years. So if you are taking a license in 2025, from 2025 and up to 7 years, you will have to keep all the records, because they can come for FTA can come for the verification in the 7 years anytime. So you should not destroy your records. Keep it safe. It can be an electronic version as well. They haven't mandated that you should keep a physical copy of the invoices. You can keep an electronic version like a soft copy as well. But only thing is, make sure that when they come for the verification, you should be able to produce all the details, whatever they ask. And it's also good if you prepare a financials, in-house financials, so that you can show them these are the financials and these are the revenues which I earned during the year, to prove that you opted for the small business relief based on the revenue threshold and everything. So now let's see the restrictions and limitations. So as I mentioned, this is applicable only for the companies who earns 3 million or less than 3 million. And if at any time the revenue exceeds 3 million before 2026, the relief is permanently lost. And again, when it comes to the revenue, all incomes count. So it can, including the exempt income, has to be taken to the calculation of revenue for checking whether you are eligible for small business relief or not. Then the asset transfer. So cannot claim relief on asset transfer. So if you're not opting for it, there is an option to choose the asset, whatever profit you make from the asset transfer. You can skip it, but if you're going for a small business relief, you don't have an option to elect for this. So let's see what are the key takeaways from this webinar. As I mentioned, it's available only until 2026. So 24, 25, and 26, you have an option to choose a small business relief and avoid tax. So it helps small businesses avoid tax and reduce compliance. So you don't have to file a full return. A simplified corporate tax return will suffice. Then 83 million threshold. Once revenue crosses 3 million, relief is permanently lost. Elect for relief. Businesses must elect for the relief in their tax return. It is not automatic. You should make the election while filing the return. And it has to be done every 3 years, like 24, 25, and 26, to get this benefit of small business relief. The main point to note here is, before electing the small business relief, what I suggest is do a cost benefit analysis, because let's say in 2024 you had a loss, but your revenue is less than 3 million. Immediately after seeing the revenue, you will go for a small business relief option election. But you should consider your profit or loss as well. So if you are a loss-making company, then even if the revenue is less than 3 million, don't go and opt for small business relief. Do the normal corporate tax filing. Don't think about the complexities, but do the filing, and you will get a benefit of carrying forward this loss which you have incurred in 2024 to 2025. So always do a cost benefit analysis before opting for it, because I have heard people saying that, okay, if I opt for small business relief, then my compliance burden is reduced, so that I will go straight away with the small business relief. No, it's not like that. Do a cost benefit analysis and then opt for the small business relief.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dhanya, for the insightful and practical session. You've done a fantastic job of breaking down a complex topic into simple, actionable steps. I'm sure everyone here would have found it incredibly valuable. Now we'll open the floor for question and answers. If you have any questions related to today's topic, feel free to type it in the question and answer chat. So let's start the question and answer as we have already some questions in the chat.
So I have a question asking whether it's 3 million of profit or revenue by, yeah. So is it 3 million of profit or revenue? It's 3 million revenue and not profit. So revenue, as I mentioned, the calculation has to be done by taking all the revenues. So it has to be your goods, revenue from the goods or services, or if you're selling any asset, or if you're selling any business segments, you have to consider all the revenues to see whether you are crossing this 3 million threshold. If I have a sole establishment license, do I need to file the corporate tax? Yes, if you have a sole establishment license, you will have to register for corporate tax and do the filing only if your revenue exceeds 1 million in the calendar year. So for natural persons, the period is considered as calendar year. So it will be Jan to December. So for this 2025, you have to check whether in 2024, your revenue is exceeding 1 million or not the profit, the revenue. So if it's not exceeding 1 million, then no need to register for corporate tax and no need to file the return, no corporate tax payment as well. But if your revenue is exceeding 1 million, yes, you will have to register. And but you have an option to elect for the small business relief. As I mentioned, do a cost benefit analysis and then opt for the small business relief. Could you please let us know again about the interest on loan? So if you're taking a loan from the bank, for example, you have an option to deduct the interest portion of the loan from the income. So when you calculate the corporate tax taxable income, you have an option to deduct this as an expense. But if you're electing small business relief, you cannot deduct this interest expense for that particular year where you are going to elect the small business relief. Because if once you elect for the small business relief, there is no taxable income, there is no corporate tax payable. So whatever expenses which is incurred in that particular year is also not deductible. If we are taking revenue less than the revenue we show on VAT returns, will it affect the CT return? Yes, it will affect the CT return because it's all linked, because you are filing the VAT and the corporate tax in the same FTA Emerald Tax portal. So they always have an option to cross check the revenue which is declared in the VAT return and the revenue which you are gonna declare in the CT return, corporate tax returns. So always make sure that this has to match the corporate tax return taxable income. The revenue should match with the VAT return filed. If I have a branch in free zone and mainland, how we have to file? So if you have a branch, then it has to be filed along with the main company. You will get only one TRN for the main company, and the branch license need to be added along with this main TRN. So filing will also be one filing you will be doing for the branch and the mainland company. Nida, do we have any other questions apart from this? Yeah, one more question I can see. In revenue, we can less commissions also, which we pay to agents. If you are a real estate, if you're running a real estate, for example, the commission which is paid to the agents are deductible expenses. So you should do like you should apply your logic like your activity and the expenses, the revenue which you generate and the expenses which you deduct, there should be a connection. So it should be always justifiable to the FTA. So if you are a real estate agent, for example, the commission which you are paying to the agents are deductible. If I am a startup and my business license was only issued in June, what information will be required from my side and the steps I need to take since I don't have any revenue or profits yet? So I assume that you have started in June 2024. If that is the case, you might have got a financial period from June to December, maybe 6 months or 7 months. And if this is a case, and if there is no revenue generated, as I mentioned, you should register for the corporate tax and make sure that you file the return on time. Even if there is nil revenue, filing and registration is mandatory. So you can opt for the small business relief because in this case, no need to do a cost benefit analysis if you don't have any other expenses to deduct. But if there are major expenses in the initial stages, most of the companies will have major expenses. If that is the case, then don't opt for the small business relief. Instead, file a normal corporate tax return so that this losses of 2024, the first year, you can carry forward to 2025. Any other commission cannot be deducted. Like sometimes customer makes sales invoices with higher value and then take the rate difference as his commission. No, so if you're deducting the commission as an expense, there should be a proper invoices to support it. So sales invoices should show only the sales value, and for the commission, you can raise another invoice. Like let the other person who is receiving the commission, let them raise an invoice. Do we need to show related party details separately? Yes, there is a option. There is a provision to show the related party transaction separately when you file the return. Is it necessary to show the cost of revenue in financials, or we consider all in expenses? If you are going to do an audit, it will be separately shown as direct expenses and indirect expenses. Here in corporate tax return also, we'll have to show it. There are columns for some expenses like rent, salaries, managerial remunerations. So those expenses we need to show it separately. Other expenses we can combine and show it together. Yeah, Nida, do we have any other questions apart from this? Who can apply for the small business relief? So as I mentioned, any UAE resident person, so it can be a national person or a juridical person with a revenue of less than 3 million in a year can opt for small business relief. Until when is the relief available? So relief is available for the first years of this corporate tax induction. So that is 24, 25 and 26. So until 2026, when you file the return of 2026 and 2027, you can, until then, you can opt for the small business relief. Do I need to register for corporate tax if I qualify for small business relief? Yes, you will have to register for corporate tax, even though if you are going to opt for the small business relief. How often FTA audit SME for VAT or corporate tax, please? It again depends because they have initially started with the big companies like MNCs or big companies, but still they have gone to the small businesses as well. So I'm not sure on what basis they are selecting this companies for the verification or the audit. So anytime they can come to an SME as well. But again, they will inform you 5 days prior in advance to keep the records, like whatever documents they need. They will give you a list, or they will tell you, okay, this is documents we need by the time when we come for the verification. Can we have a recording of this webinar? Yes, sure, you can. We will be uploading this in our YouTube channel. So, and we will be sending the link to all the participants, all the attendees in this webinar to your emails. If we are in loss financial year 2024, we need to go for small business relief or normalcy. So as I mentioned, if you are in a loss position, then don't opt small business relief because you will not be able to carry forward this loss. Let's say in 2025, again, there is a loss. So all these losses together, you can knock off against the profit which you're going to make in 2026. So it's better not to opt for small business relief if you have a loss. But again, if you have a profit of 375,000, let's say, and your revenue is less than 3 million, in order to avoid that corporate tax payment, yes, you can opt for the small business relief. Can free zone persons, companies apply for small business relief? Yes, it's applicable to free zone as well, but it shouldn't apply for a qualifying free zone as a qualifying free zone person. If they are opting for it because they are already getting a 0% corporate tax benefit from the government, so they cannot opt for the small business relief again. What types of income are included in 3 million revenue? So all incomes from the UAE. So if it's for a juridical person, all income, all global income will be included for the calculation of revenue threshold. And for natural persons only include the foreign income related to their UAE business. Can I carry forward the losses or tax credits if I claim SBR? No, you cannot carry forward or claim the tax losses or any, if you have any tax credits, you cannot carry forward if you are going to opt for the small business relief. Can I choose not to apply for small business relief? Yes, it's an option. So based on a cost benefit analysis, you can make a selection whether to opt for it or not. If you're again you're a loss making company, then don't opt for the small business relief. It's not a mandatory thing, it's an optional one. If our revenue is less than 3 million and have a loss, so we can opt for small business relief or not. You always have an option to elect for it. So it's up to you to choose whether to elect or not. As I mentioned, if you are going to elect for the small business relief, this loss which you have made cannot be carried forward to the next year. So let's say next year, what if you are going to make a profit of 400,000, which is 375,000, above 375,000. So on 25,000, you will have to pay corporate tax of 9%. So if you are not opting SBR in the previous year, whatever losses you made can be deducted from this profit which you earned in 2026. So always make an election, make a choice whether to choose for it or not by doing a cost benefit analysis. The purchase cost can be deducted to calculate the threshold limit. No, so revenue, for the calculating the threshold of revenue, you should take all the incomes before deducting the expenses. Even the exempt income has to be considered for calculating this revenue of 3 million. So any purchase cost or any other expenses cannot be deducted from the revenue for calculating this threshold limit. I hope I have covered all your questions. If you have any questions which I haven't answered, you can always send by email or WhatsApp. I have given the contact in the slide.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of today's session, I would like to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude. First and foremost, a sincere thanks to Ms. Dhanya Rejish for taking the time to lead this session and share her experience with us. We truly appreciate your clear guidance, ma'am. A big thanks to all our participants for joining us today and engaging so positively. We hope this session has helped clarify your doubts and given you the confidence to move forward with your tax responsibility. On behalf of RDS Accounting and Bookkeeping, thank you once again, and we look forward to having you with us in our future sessions as well. Wishing you all continued success and compliance. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.